Bulavinaka, I'm Francis Qounadovu. Thank you for joining us on Fem Talk 89 FM. Today we'll be discussing human security and protection before, during and after humanitarian emergency. Here with me I have Mrs. Ratna Chandra from the Rao Multicultural Women's Group from Navua and Ms. Sulique from representing the House of Chameleon. Ladies, throughout the consultation, a common issue we've been discussing has been on economic security. It is a condition of having stable income or other resources to support a standard of living now and in the foreseeable future. So what change do you want to see to ensure that this protection need, this human security priority is met? Ms. Chandra?
Human security before cyclone meant keeping the family well fed and provided home for children and kept them well. And for that, and you have to have job security, good wages so that we can meet the needs of the family, and good condition for working for ladies, and number of hours they can work and they can go home quickly.
Thank you. In terms of economic security, one of the conversations that we were having as a group was to ensure that women and women's groups were always resourced during, before, and post humanitarian crisis. So one of the suggestions that came from the floor was to ensure that women set aside reserve funds to be able to assist in terms of post-disasters, like reserve funds specifically among women's groups. Like for us, for House of Chameleon, we have a pot of funds where we contribute on an annual basis to be able to help in, in unforeseen circumstances like that. So to us, it's about encouraging that women have the tools, the resources to always to be adequately able to respond in terms of disaster. And that's to us economic security, ensuring that women are fully resourced from their own funds. And that's sustainable too, not being reliant too much on aid. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was to also, because there were issues and cases of prostitution, sex work, particularly among young girls, post-disasters. One of the things that we recommended was to, because Fiji's criminalized sex work, we want to regulate it. To regulate the industry, we know it has a lot of potentials. It has financed a lot of women. We want to make sure it's done in a legal and, a way that does not further marginalize and harm women and also young girls.
Thank you, Ms. Sulique. Back to Ms. Ratna Chandra. I believe that you've been talking on job security, that people need more employment, the quality of job. So just a question, how can this be done, or why does this need to be done?
By reviewing the Employment Act whereby it includes the of women.
Thank you very much. Back to our topic on economic security. I believe, Ms. Sulique, you've been bringing out some issues, and just a question, how can this be all done?
In terms of the specific recommendations that I shared for economic security of women with regards to the reserve funds for women's groups and women's support groups in any community, it's simple, set up a bank account where women can be able to control, sign off, and decide when and who should the fund goes towards in terms of resourcing for women. The other thing is to find alternative forms of legal employment for women who are engaged in the sex work industry, especially for young girls as well, and also to support women who are already engaged in income generation projects, and to, like I said, regulate the industry.
Thank you. Ms. Chandra, why does this need to be done?
For women's safety and their well-being, and their contribution is important.
So thank you very much. I believe, ladies, we've been discussing issues on women and employment, and I believe that we've already talked on Basically, we're trying to recommend the protection of women overall in the employment force, and especially with women sex workers, that they need to be protected, and the quality of employment, and I believe wages. So thank you so much. You're listening to Fem Talk 89 FM, and I'm Francis, speaking to Miss Chandra and Miss Sulique about economic security. Let's talk about the situation before and after Winston for you and your community. Miss Chandra, what was the situation before Winston, like back in Navu?
Everything was okay. Women had a quality food for the family, and they had their gardens. Everything was okay.
Everything was okay back then, eh? So, but immediately after Winston?
After Wilson, the food price gone up, power shut down, no water. Women looking for the money to rebuild the community.
And Miss Sulique, what was the situation like before Winston and immediately after Winston?
If you look at the economic gap between the rich and the poor, and also when we talk about those who live below the poverty line, majority of people, individuals who live below the poverty line in Fiji are women. Hence why a lot of conversation within our group, we've been talking about the feminization of poverty, and then before Winston, that's already been the reality of women who have to continue to look for resources to fend for themselves and also for the welfare of their children and their family as a whole. And immediately after Winston, it's the burden is double or triple of that.
So, ladies, as of now, it's five months now. What is the situation like?
Women is still recovering and rebuilding, struggling at the same time.
It's true when we say that women are the first responders in terms of, the recovery effort and all of that. Even when outside help, when government help, when international aid, local aid, they've got, it's still women who are on the ground who continue, to respond to this. So 5 months after that, we haven't seen really much changes in terms of supporting women to be able to be resourced financially, to be able to, to give them the capacity, the skills, to recover fully from, the devastation of Cyclone Winston and other crises, and there hasn't been really much changes in the community in terms of support for women's economic security.
Okay. So we've talked about what women want to see and why. Ms. Chandra, what are women doing to address this already?
They go to advisory councils for help and the government assistance.
Okay. Ms. Sulique, how are women leading the responses in their communities to address this issue?
In terms of the House of Chameleon, we've just started a project called the Transaction Project, which is Transaction Project. This is supported by the engagement that we've been having with Hibiscus Charity Trust Funds. So we got a small fund to identify 10 transgender women from all over Fiji. So with these 10 trans women, we've engaged them in capacity building, in supporting them. These are trans women who are involved in businesses, in small businesses, to help them go through financial management training on how to market their products and to be able to deliver high quality products in their communities. So these are some of the examples of economic empowerment that we're giving women, particularly for transgender women in our community, to fully respond in the future when they face with disasters such as cyclone or rising sea level or anything like that.
What are the barriers to women in decision making being consulted so the solutions are taken into account? Ms. Chandra?
We, the women of Navu, are not involved in the consultation during the decision making.
Thank you. And Ms. Sulique?
In groups where we have formal organizing or informal organizing in communities, it's basically the lack of resources to be able to reach out and expand the existing current work that they're already engaged in, to be able to mobilize their own community. They need the resources, they need the finances to do that, to get the women together, to form support groups, to convene meetings, to be able to provide them with the resources to put together statements, to lobby government, lobby their district level community leaders, lobby their vanua or their parliamentary committees, subcommittees and all of that. So it's about resourcing these women in the community to be able to have the resources to go out, to expand their work, to reach out further into the communities that are not, yet part of the current organizing. Those who are left behind, they need to be part of that. So it's basically about resourcing. That's why it's important when we talk about the budget, which is currently one of the conversation that's happening in Parliament, that we ensure that not just the Ministry of Women, but also the support that's given to local women elsewhere, and women's organization is sufficient enough to be able to support the activities and their work that they do with their communities.
Exactly. Lastly, how can we support women's initiatives to make the change we want to see?
First, I would like to request that the government of the day would see that the food prices decrease, especially rice, flour, and more jobs opportunity for the good working condition and wages for women.
I've mentioned before increasing financial resources for women and also recognizing unpaid work, domestic work, that women continue to do unpaid and all of that, and basically supporting their initiatives.
Thank you very much, ladies. So thank you so much, Ms. Chandra and Ms. Sulique for talking to us on Fem Talk 89. This is Frances Qounadovu signing off.